Hello everyone. In this video, I will demonstrate how to create simple bar graphs using R. Let's get started. I have created a folder called R project on my desktop, and within that folder, I have a folder called data sets, and here I'm storing all my data sets. So will be working on chickflick.csv. So if you open this file, you will see that we have three fields: gender, film, and arousal. So we have male and female. We have two types of films that they watched: Bridget Jones' Diary and Memento. And arousal is simply the score they received by watching that particular film. So this is the data set we will be working on. Let's get started. So first thing I have to do is load ggplot2 package. This is the package we will be using for all our graphs. It's an industry standard and heavily recommended. So first we have to install this one. So the best way to run a single line command is to press the command key and enter on Mac. I already have installed that package. So it's asking me whether I want to restart R. So I want to say no here. I don't want to restart R, but I just want to go ahead and install it again, my ggplot2 package. Once I install it, I have to load it, and I will again press command enter, and it loaded that uh, package into my library. I will set my working directory to the data sets folder. This will simply give me the current working directory that I have. And then next thing we have to do is we have to read our file, which is chickflick.csv. It's a CSV file, and this is how we will read it, command enter. So we got that file into our variable called myBarData. Let's read first 10. So this will help me read first 10 records. So these are the first 10 records in our data set. Now let's go ahead and do the simple bar graph of count. Okay, so what I will do here is I will say my bar graph. Let's say that's the name I want to give, and I will use ggplot. Say pass on reference to my data set. Okay, so my bar data, and I need to define aesthetic features of my object. So we have to use AES and give film type as the variable that we are interested. So right now what we have done is we have simply defined a ggplot object, and we passed on the reference to our data set, which is my bar data, and we are saying that okay, we are interested in a variable called film. So these variables that you want to plot on x and y axis has to go into this aesthetics function, AES function. Okay, so by itself right now this will not plot anything, but let's try to run this one and see what it does. So I will try to run this command. I will come here, command enter, and then command enter again, and as you see, it's just an object. It's just telling me that we have two types of film, and that's it. So let's go ahead and plot the bars, which will be the bars of counting. So we'll say geom underscore bar, and that should do the trick here. Okay, so I will enter here again, command enter again, and you will see that we have more people watching film Memento compared to Bridget Jones' Diary. So this is the simplest bar chart of counting. And something I want to figure it out here is, you see how I've broken down the commands into two lines. So this is important. If you indicate plus sign in the next line, this will not work. Okay, it generates an error, something you have to keep in mind. Okay, so it will generate an error. So it has to be on the first line. And secondly, these are case sensitive. So if you type in film, this might not work because it's not going to recognize that as a field. Because in our data set, if you scroll up here, you'll see that the film is in lowercase. So that's something you have to keep in mind. So moving on, I want to give a title to my simple bar graph here. So I will say use labs function and define title. I will say film type and arousal. Okay, and here I can say comma, and I can go to the next line because comma is sort of indicating continuation of code as well. So x equals film type, that's the title I want to give on my x-axis, and y-axis I want to call it count of cases. Okay. So let's run this one again. Okay, so geom bar is a function, so I need to specify open and close parenthesis there. So now you see the title for our graph and for our x and y axis. Okay, so let's move on. Now let's go ahead and create the stacked bar graph by gender. So I will copy this one here. Okay, so all we have to do here is I will add another variable and I will fill by that variable, which is gender. Okay, so we're going to be filling our bars by different types of values in our gender, which is male and female. So this should do the trick. So you see that we have colored our bars by gender. Looks like when it comes to Bridget Jones' Diary, more female watched that film compared to male, but when it comes to Memento, more male watched that film compared to female. So that's something you have to keep in mind. Now this is just counting number of cases. So you see that Memento, when it comes to the male, there are like at least 15 males who might have watched that film. Okay, and maybe 10 that watched uh, 10 female that watched that particular film. So what we can do is alternatively we can create proportional bar graphs, or what we also know called percent stacked bar graphs by gender. So fairly simple. I will copy this one here. So by default, this will always create stacked bar graph. But if you want to sort of create proportional or percent stacked bar graph, then you have to sort of indicate a position in your geom underscore bar. Position equals fill. One more thing I wanted to point out here is what we are doing is when we create the graph, we build layer by layer. So first command here simply defines the ggplot object, and then we are adding another layer on the top of that, which will be plotting bars on our graph, and then on the top of that we are adding another layer called labs, which will be showing titles for our x, y, and the graph. So that's there to keep in mind. We build graph layer by layer, and so this should do the trick. This should create stacked percent stacked bar graph here, and you see that both the bars are scaled up to 1, like that's 100%, and out of 100% for Bridget Jones Diary, you see that male watched approximately, I would say, 35% maybe, 35 to 40%, and when it comes to Memento, male watched almost 55%. Okay, so they are both equal to 1, and out of 1 it just sort of telling you proportional statistics, something you have to keep in mind. So moving on, now let's say we use the stacked bar graph here, but instead of stacking on the top of each other, I want to show uh, different bars by gender. Okay, so here what we have to do here, I would say position equals dodge. Okay, and this will show our bars side by side. So you see now we have separate bars by gender. Red is female and this blue is male. Okay, so you can do the comparative statistics here. So this is showing different bars by gender. But what if we want to create two different graphs, one graph for the male and one for the female? And that's where we have to use facet wrap. So I will copy the same code here. So I will tab my code. This will make it more readable. And then what I have to do here is I have to just specify the bar graph here, not going to dodge or do anything. But what I will do is I will add another layer called facet underscore wrap, and I will wrap it by gender. Okay, so this will create two separate charts, one for male and one for female. I need to specify plus here. That's a concatenation of commands. So you see that we are creating two separate graphs. One is for the female and one is for the male. Okay, and you can do the comparative statistics that way as well. And obviously when you have separate charts for male and female, you don't need this legend here, so you can switch it off. So I will say theme uh, legend dot, hold on, so legend dot position equals none. Okay, so that should do the trick. So as you see, that legend is gone and looks much better now. So moving on. Now, so far we have counted the number of cases in each category, right? But what if you want to show the mean arousal by film type? Okay, so mean arousal is what you need to do is you have to aggregate the data by film type and find the mean and show it on the graph. Okay, so that is a little different than what we have been doing here. So let's get going here. So let's see how much can I use this one here. So okay, what I will do here is I will just use the basic one. I will just copy this one here because I don't want to code it again. So here what we need to do here is we have to bring another variable. So this is telling me that I want to plot film on x-axis and arousal on y-axis, but we don't want to use this one because this will not work. We need to use another function called stat underscore summary, and we need to say that function equals mean because we're interested in plotting means. And then we have to specify the geom function. Geom equals, you want to plot the bar graph. Okay, and here instead of count of cases we will say this is mean arousal. Okay, and this should do the trick here. So now you see that we are plotting the mean arousal. Okay, so for the Bridget Jones diary, the mean arousal was around 14, and this for Memento it was around 25. So that's something I have to keep in mind. Now what we want to do is we want to again fill the bar by the gender. Okay, and we want to show separate bars by gender also. So I will copy this command here. Okay, so I would say here fill equals gender. So as is, if you do just this much, it will show this graph, but you're not seeing any female bars because they are hidden behind the male bars. So that's why we have to use a position here called dodge. Position equals dodge. So what this will do, this will put bars side by side. Okay, now you can see the mean arousal by different types of film category, and within film category by male and female. Okay, so you can see that in both the cases memento had higher arousal compared to for male. I mean the male has higher arousal compared to female, and memento had higher arousal compared to Bridget Jones' Diary. Something you have to keep in mind. Okay, so there is a position. We also wanted to show the error bar. So for that, we have to add another layer. So we are adding another layer. So already we had 3 layers, but we're gonna add another layer called stats underscore summary again. Okay. So this we have to specify the function data equals mean confidence interval normal. So normally distributed confidence interval. That's what this stands for. Okay, and then we have to specify the geom function, and let's say we want to use point range. So this will show the error bars in our graph here. So again I have to specify the plus here. So you see that you're seeing the error bars, but they are not positioned that well, and the reason for that is we need to dodge the position of error bars as well. Okay, so I will say comma here. Let's go to the next line. Okay, so here I would say position equals this is the way you have to specify position underscore dodge. Okay, width equals 0.9, which is a default anyways, but this is you have to specify specifically to get the bars or errors positioned correctly on the graph. Okay, now they are positioned correctly on the graph. So we have created a nice bar graph that's showing the mean arousal by different types of films and gender along with error bars. Okay, now what we want to do is, again, we want to create 2 separate charts. Okay, and instead of just one chart, and we use the point range here, but now we want to show the error bars, which is the same but different types of error bars. Okay, so I will copy this one here. So nothing much going to change here. So this is, we do not need this anymore. Okay, so we'll delete that, and we will use error bar. So that's what we need to specify there. And if we want to use facet like we used before, facet wrap, and we want to wrap it by gender. Okay, need to specify plus symbol here. So you see that we created separate graphs for uh, male and female, and error bars are showing here. Now this is different than the point range that we created. It was a straight line. Error bars, this by default the width of the bar is, the error bar is equal to the width of the your bars. So you can decrease the width of the error bar so that they look a little nicer, and it's easy to do that. Here in the stat summary I have to specify the width. Let's say we want to set it to zero point 0.2. Let's see what this has, what kind of effect on the graph. Now you see that they are fairly looking good, the error bars, and the graph is nicely done. And we need to turn off the legend in this case because we're not need it for that. So we have to use theme legend dot I guess legend dot position equals none. Okay, and so legend is gone, and you have a bigger chart here, and that's something to keep in mind. Okay, so let's say if you, instead of showing the mean, you just want to show the sum of arousal. Okay, so that's fairly easy. We will copy this code here, paste it here. So I want to use the same thing, but instead of showing the mean, I want to show the sum. So when you're using sum, this does not make any sense. Okay, so confidence interval basically you show when you're showing the mean. Okay, here, and let's say here I would just say sum. Okay, and this should work. Let's see. Okay, so here instead of mean arousal, we'll say total arousal. Okay, so you see two different charts by male and female, and this time we are showing the sum of arousal by different categories. This is how you create simple bar chart. And final thing is, if you want to save this one, just call gg save and pass on the file name. Let's say this is the file I want to store. It's a png file. You can save it with bunch of other formats, including jpg file as well, but there are other formats as well, but this is very common, so we're gonna leave it like that. So if you run this one, command enter here, command enter here again, the only difference between these two commands is that here we are specifying the width and the height of the image, 5 inches. Okay, here it's a default size is 8.5 by 5.2 inches, and you can see those here. Let's say if I open film arousal 1, so this is the default image that was saved, and if I open the other one, this is 5 by 5. And the beauty about saving the image is that you can copy this one and paste it in your Word document, in case you're doing any documentation. So keep in mind that to submit here, you build a graph layer by layer. Okay, your first layer defines the object, and on the top of object you have to keep adding on the layers. So here we added second layer as geom bar, that's going to show the bars, and the third layer that's going to show the title on X, Y, and for the graph. Okay, so that's what you have to keep in mind. So with this, I will end my video here. Thank you very much for watching.